Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order the September meeting of Children, Seniors, and Families Committee. And to do that, we need to establish quorum. So if we could ask Camille to help us do that.
Of course. Vice Chairperson Young
Here.
and Chairperson Arenas.
And I'm here too.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Awesome. And I think you have an announcement, Camille?
Yes, we do have a short announcement. This is a courtesy announcement that ASL interpretation is available on Zoom for this meeting. Instructions will be shared on screen shortly on how to access interpretation. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, this is a wonderful feature. Hopefully, people will take advantage of it. We're going to move into item number 2, which is public comment. This is opportunity for our residents to come in and talk about anything that's not on the agenda, but is also under the purview of the Children, Seniors, and Families Committee. And so if you're here in person, if you'd like to speak, please request to do that by filling a yellow card. Camille has those. If not, and then you are online, please raise your virtual hand. And Camille, let's figure out who's there.
So we have no requests in person, but we do have, one moment, 2 hands raised in Zoom. Okay, so we'll go ahead. 2 minutes?
Go ahead and give 2 minutes, yes.
Okay, so we'll go with our first speaker. Parent, you will have 2 minutes to speak. Please go ahead.
Yes, hello, good afternoon to you all. We really have a big problem here in this county with not addressing sexual molestation of children when prominent attorneys are involved and they're making money off it and they want the sexual abuse to continue. As you guys know, I've already reported to the county that my ex-wife was letting a man anally rape my son beginning when he was 13 years old. There was one child who was rubbing his genitals against the buttocks of another child, and there was unnecessary bathing with the children, 2 of the children, and the personality of the children suddenly and drastically changed overnight. This is all because the neglect of my children is occurring because my former attorney, Valerie Houghton, she's involved, and she's been stalking me, hacking me, assaulting me, and nobody here cares. And she's also been sending me messages about children's hospitals, about children being injured, children dying, and it's obvious. She's either saying that she's threatening to kill my children, or she's doing it directly to my children to intimidate them from not speaking out about what's going on. Because it's not. I believe that the abuse is going far beyond what I told you. I believe that my ex-wife has been exposing the children to other abuse, and nobody will listen to me. Nobody will even give my kids a screening, and it's a shame on this county that this is going on, that you guys let children be raped, and this woman is threatening my kids, and the officials are sitting up here listening to this, and they're just gonna go about the meeting like nothing happened. Thank you for your.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gabby. Gabby, we are unmuting you. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, honorable supervisors. My name is Gabby Pakula. I'm from the International Human Rights Clinic at Santa Clara University School of Law. Thank you so much for the opportunity to provide public comment. We've had the privilege over the past several years of supporting the county in its efforts to enhance gender equity, particularly through the county's passage of its historic ordinance to implement the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or CEDAW. We strongly support the recommendations put forward by the Commission, and we respectfully encourage the committee to consider both the clinic's supplemental recommendations as well as our 2018 study on the experience of unhoused women in Santa Clara County. We prepared the 2018 report in partnership with the county's Office of Women's Policy after extensive consultation with women with lived experience and community-based organizations, and we developed our more recent recommendations through additional collaboration with community stakeholders, including the Commission. We encourage the committee to consider both reports in tandem as it evaluates pathways to equity for unhoused women and girls in our community. I would like to provide comments relating to the specific issue of vehicle tows as an example of why the county should apply a gender lens to homelessness. Although vehicle towing seems gender neutral on its face, women, particularly those women fleeing domestic violence and women with children, are statistically more likely to live and sleep in their cars, which means that vehicle towing policies deeply and disproportionately impact unhoused women. While some of these recommendations fall within the purview of cities, we respectfully encourage the county to take a leadership role in counteracting the disproportionate negative effects of vehicle tows on unhoused women and to take direct action wherever possible. Moreover, the loss of a vehicle has detrimental effects on the ability of individuals to secure employment. Thank you.
Thank you, and that concludes public comment.
Thank you. And that item, that speaker that just finished was referring to an item that is on our agenda, and this is item 4. And so, Camille, we can make sure that there's only one opportunity to speak on the subject, and so that was that person's opportunity to speak. And then the following time, I will make sure to reroute them. All right, we're going to move forward, but without actually announcing that California Department of Social Services has a complaint page which provides direction on submitting a complaint when there is a concern about a California judge's performance, as well as other complaints about county child welfare service agencies, and you can contact them at 916-651-8848 for more information. All right, so that takes us on to our following item, which is consent. This is approving consent and changes to the committee agenda. Currently, we have items 13 through 19, and I will ask my co-chair to please add continue to keep 13 through 19, and then defer item 9 since that presentation was posted this morning. I don't think it gives us an opportunity, nor the public, to be informed.
So moved.
Wonderful, and I'll second that. And then Camille will take us home.
Okay, and just to note, we do not have any requests to speak for this item.
Thank you, Camille. I was going to ask you that, too.
All right, Vice Chairperson Young
Yes.
and Chairperson Arenas.
Yes.
Thank you, motion passes.
Perfect. Okay, so we are going to continue with our regular agenda. Now, this is item 4, and this is receiving a report from the Commission on the Status of Women relating to a summary of the public forum on March 10th regarding unhoused women and girls. Welcome. If there is a presentation, now is the time. You can go ahead and stand at the podium.
Is there a microphone? Yeah, okay, good. So I don't have a presentation, but I have a comment and an introduction to the report.
An introduction, member of the public?
Member of the Commission on the Status of Women.
Okay, so you're doing this as a member of the commission and not a member of the public. Do you want to take a seat and go ahead and share your
Over here?
report? Right next to, yeah. No problem. And that way I don't limit you to the 2 minutes also.
And good afternoon. My name is Ajane. I'm the program manager with the clerk of the board operations, and I am here if there are any additional questions. And as the commissioner stated, she will be answering any questions about the form that is under item number 4.
Thank you both. And yes, I really was prepared more for public comment, but I'm very happy to have any additional time needed. First of all, I'd like to say hello to Honorable Supervisors Arenas and Young, and it's a pleasure to see you both, as well as everyone else that's here today. My name is Nancy Bermeau, and I am a commissioner with the Commission on the Status of Women. I was also the chair of the ad hoc committee that held the public hearing in March of this year, which was titled Unhoused Women and the County's Housing Support System. Our ad hoc committee is also the ones who wrote the report and the recommendations, and I'm here today to ask that this report and its recommendations be sent to the full board for action. The Commission on the Status of Women chose to study homelessness with our public hearing for a number of reasons. First of all, because homelessness is a priority of the 2023 CDOT ordinance, which commits the county to develop policies and plans that are gender responsive and address the unique needs of women and girls, including in the area of housing. In addition, the Commission and the Office of Women's Policy has had a long history of over 10 years of studying the effects of gender and homelessness, including the report which was referenced in the public hearing by the Santa Clara University International Human Rights Clinic, who produced a study on gender and homelessness in 2018, which was contracted by the county. In 2020, the county also created a CDOT task force, actually in 2017, I think. But in 2020, that CDOT task force released a report again on gender and homelessness. So as you can see, we have a long history of studying this issue. In this year, 2025, we partnered with Santa Clara University Law School's International Human Rights Clinic. We also partnered with Silicon Valley Legal Foundation and Destination Home to plan and hold the hearing and create the report. During the process, which lasted almost 6 months, we reached out to over 60 community-based organizations which support unhoused women. We met with more than a dozen of those organizations. We also held multiple meetings with the Office of Supportive Housing and Reentry Services to understand the county's housing support services. During the public hearing, we had over 100 attendees and 50 speakers who came to talk to us and share their lived experience as either currently or formerly unhoused. As we developed our report and recommendations, we recognized the tremendous efforts this county has made towards reducing homelessness and preventing homelessness. We also know that sometimes small changes can have a big impact. And one of those changes that we're asking for in our number one first recommendation is to ask that a gender lens be applied when collecting data about homelessness and housing insecurity. Our second recommendation would be to support a new funding measure, which we are aware is already being done with Measure A on the November ballot. However, in that case, to support healthcare primarily. But you can see we were thinking along the same lines. We are hoping that there will be some funding that could be used to support extremely low-income households and increase permanent supportive housing. As our third recommendation is to take further action to slow the flow of people entering homelessness, including survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. A specific recommendation within this is to create a guaranteed basic income program for survivors, which we do not believe has been done in the past. Finally, we've included a list of very specific and targeted recommendations that were raised by stakeholders and which you will find in Attachment B of this report. We would like to ask that you, here at the CSFC, move this report to the full board, and at that point, direct staff to consider and report back on those recommendations in Attachment B, including creating shelter standards for emergency shelters for women, expanding safe parking for women, addressing the needs of recently released and formerly incarcerated women, as well as other things like increasing the availability of legal services and eviction protection, investing in training frontline staff in trauma-informed care that ensures women are informed by their rights regarding child custody, and a number of other recommendations that are in Attachment B. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks, again, just by asking that this report be forwarded on to the full board for action. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for the presentation, and I'm going to ask Camille for public comment.
So we do have one request in the Zoom, and I have two hands, in person, and two hands raised in Zoom. So let me just give it a minute for any other requests. So I'm holding with 3 requests.
Perfect. We'll do 2 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll start with the requests in the room. Our speaker is Vanessa. Vanessa, please come up to the lectern.
Good afternoon. Nancy asked me to come, so I'm shooting from the hip. I participated in the study session. The most impactful part that I would share was the part about getting women currently experiencing domestic violence and homelessness to show up and speak. I was moved beyond words when I entered that room. I don't think I have seen that many public speakers unless it's the union and they're showing up about like a employment contract thing. It's definitely something that is affecting our community, specifically in Gilroy, I imagine countywide. What I really took away though was the power and solutions in the room. We had Santa Clara University sitting there, you know, providing feedback, taking notes, giving recommendations, women with various stages of experience, and we all know the county is facing an incredible deficit. Like, these are really, really hard, precarious times, and we know that when communities face poverty and stress, that domestic violence increases significantly. And what I am compelled to bring forth is that Santa Clara County has been a trendsetter. We're progressive, we are insulated. I feel fortunate that we are here. Something that we can do that doesn't take a lot of new money is look at our own policies. How does the Housing Authority expedite an application for tenancy when a woman is fleeing domestic violence? It takes too long. It takes weeks. Where is that mama and her children? Like, she has the resource, but the policy and the paperwork take what they take. We internally in this time can look at those policies and quickly address it so that we can prevent crisis. We can look at changing policies to allow roommate situations if two mamas need to live together. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're moving to our Zoom speakers. Our first speaker is Wilfred. Wilfred, we are unmuting you. You will have 2 minutes to speak. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Wilfred Kramer, and I am with the International Human Rights Clinic with Santa Clara University School of Law. Viewing the issue of homelessness through a gendered lens, it is important to understand that unhoused women face unique and frequently unmet healthcare needs. For women navigating homelessness, especially survivors of domestic and gender-based violence, it is necessary to have accessible, trauma-informed, gender-responsive care. Yet, as our 2018 report outlines, these services remain limited in availability, scope, and accessibility. Nearly 20% of women surveyed said that a medical issue, such as a mental health challenge, substance use, illness, or disability, was the main reason they became homeless. More than half, 54%, reported having a disability while they were homeless, and 20% were pregnant during at least some part of that time. These numbers show both how closely tied healthcare access is to housing stability and that meeting these unique healthcare needs is a vital step in restoring dignity and security for our community's unhoused women. Healthcare gaps experienced by unhoused women are especially concerning in a county like Santa Clara, where the healthcare system is one of the largest public service providers and can play a critical role in both prevention and stabilization. To ensure equity in care, we recommend that the county establish mobile health clinics, expand mental health services, and implement gender-specific training for providers. In particular, we recommend the county increase investment in mobile clinics that offer reproductive care and mental health services tailored especially for women's needs. We also echo the Commission on the Status of Women call for more funding for trauma-informed women's shelters, including spaces that allow for family unity and accommodate women with children. These targeted investments would directly address the lived barriers identified in both our clinic's findings and the Commission's recent report. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nicole. Nicole, we are unmuting you. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, honorable supervisors. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comment. My name is Nicole Winship, and I'm also with the International Human Rights Clinic at the Santa Clara University School of Law. I would like to provide further comment relating to the specific issue of domestic violence as an example of why the county should apply a gender lens of homelessness. Women are disproportionately the victims of domestic violence, and domestic violence pushes women into homelessness. In a report entitled Single Women Experiencing Homelessness in Santa Clara County from the county's Office of Supportive Housing, 69% cited domestic violence as a reason for their homelessness. Some important points to consider are that domestic violence is one of the primary causes of homelessness for women in this county. Moreover, gender-based violence and sexual assault are pervasive among women experiencing homelessness. The system as it is now fails to address this fact adequately at virtually all points of contact, demonstrated by the systematic shortage of confidential shelter beds for survivors of gender-based violence. Domestic violence accounts for nearly 50% of violent crime calls to law enforcement. The scale of this crisis is evident in the roughly 24,000 annual intimate partner assault crisis calls and support provided to over 7,000 survivors yearly by the county's Domestic Violence Advocacy Consortium. The issue was further underscored at the Commission's public hearing on unhoused women that took place on March 10th, where nearly all women who spoke about their lived experience referenced domestic violence and sexual assault as contributing factors to their housing insecurity. Domestic violence is intimately linked to the experience of unhoused women in Santa Clara County. We respectfully encourage the Children, Families, and Seniors Committee to share these recommendations with the full Board of Supervisors and to advocate for their implementation and adoption. Thank you again for the opportunity to support the county's groundbreaking work and to speak here today.
Okay. Thank you, and that concludes public comment.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to my co-chair and see if there's any comments.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. Just wanted to offer and extend my my gratitude to Nancy and to the members of the Commission on the Status of Women. Just thank you to this commission for always meeting the moment and always bringing to the board the priorities that you are hearing and receiving directly from community. Thank you, Anjane, for supporting the body of work that the commission has undertaken. I was able to attend the first half of the summit, and it was incredibly moving. I hope that it was, I don't think it was recorded, right? It was.
We do have a summary of each individual comment. It's very moving. I believe it's attachment A in the report. It's definitely worth running through anytime. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think if it was recorded, I was going to recommend that people watch and hear firsthand. But I now, as the moment I remember that was a consideration that was made to protect the testimony of women and girls and to create that safe space. So again, another point of intentionality on the part of the commission. I fully support this discussion, and in fact, I think it's imperative that our colleagues on the board also hear from the commission on this summit and also hear from any public comments such as that was provided today to provide further context to this issue. I think it's something that the county is intimately aware of, that when budgetary cuts, changes in policies that lean towards the worst happen, everybody's impacted, but our most vulnerable are women, our girls, our families, those with differing immigration status, various immigration status, and those with disabilities and health conditions are the ones that are harmed first. They're the ones who suffer first. And so thank you for putting the spotlight where it's incredibly needed. And I fully support bringing this to the board. So I know that's probably going to be further discussion. But Chair, I would like to make a motion to bring this report to the full board for presentation and discussion.
I second that. I would like to also thank you for not only for your presentation, but for the work that you're doing to ensure that the board continues to understand in depth what the issues that impact women and girls in general. And, you know, one of the things that it really struck me as a council member during the pandemic, I learned that the World Health Organization already had recognized once again during the pandemic that women and girls were at higher risk of violence, especially in moments of crisis, right? And I think this goes to the comment that Vanessa made about poverty, right? We're looming in it's going to get really bad. And I mean, it's bad right now, and it's going to get worse. And some of the families we've already talked about, my coach had just finished saying, those are the families that are going to feel it first, right? And so then, what is it? What is the action plan or the response plan for the commission to recommend to the board to take during moments of crises, right? Whether it's the pandemic or a lull in our economy that creates a kind of stress that really encourages intimate partner violence in a way that we haven't seen before, or child abuse for that matter, right? And so I wonder if this is something that, we can, when the board hears this item, but I'd like for you to think about a response plan. You have a lot of the feedback already. You have a lot of the insight in terms of what is happening to young women and girls. I heard your recommendation about basic income as a recommendation. I think there's some real solutions based recommendations here, and I don't want it to get lost as we move into a very difficult budgetary crisis, because some of these things do get lost, right? If nobody shepherds them, they get lost. And then what we don't do is we don't go across systems and figure out, okay, if we're stabilizing young women and girls and those identified as such, this way in our safety services, what are you doing over here, right, to augment or to help align or fill in the gaps so that it's truly a plan that takes every level of government. And so I just ask you to think about that. Think about a response plan so that we can make sure that when we as policymakers go into the budget season, we know, oh, but we have to make sure we hold the line here, right? Or according to what we know is coming next. And it's, the economy is, I don't think, ever bounced back. We're still in this lull. And we can see it because there's additional schools that are closing. I mean, where I'm at of school district, but in my daughter's school is consolidating. My son's school 6 years ago closed in our own homeschool, and so there's a lot of signs about what is happening in our community. And even though there's been some improvements and some headway in some areas, for example, I know through the Latino Health Assessment, we saw that there was less pregnancies among Latinas in some of the teenage years. Yet in this report, we continue to see single women being the primary recipients of services for homelessness, right? And I think it was single women between the ages of 18 and 24, and then 46% of them being Latinas. And so even though the pregnancy piece has improved, the circumstance for single mothers has not, right? Shocker. We can't expect single moms to do any better when everybody else is doing worse. And so to your point about basic income, yes, that is part of the solution, right? But we need to see the bigger picture, because at times we just see these slides of what the work that the commission is doing in general, and I think we deserve to see the general picture about the status of women overall, and then to hold us to a certain standard in services and care for them. So that is my feedback. I obviously am supporting the motion on the floor, and I look forward to seeing what, in addition, and we can talk offline as well. I'd love to work with you on this. But for the moment, I'd like to thank you for the very meaningful testimonies that you pointed out in attachment A, that have had a lot of lived experience, that understand our systems, and that are making recommendations about even tenancy, like these are kinds of maybe easier fixes, right? That we can accomplish while we do maybe the tougher work that's ahead of us. So with that, I'll ask Camille, oh, and is there any response on your part?
Sorry, just to say thank you, and we would be pleased and honored to come back to the board and really highlight some of those things that we think could either provide some of the bigger picture as well as the smaller, finer grain things that might be little tweaks in policy that could make huge improvements in people's lives. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, with that, we'll ask Camille to call the vote.
All right. Vice Chairperson Young
Yes.
and Chairperson Arenas.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you, both of you. And we are going to move on to item number 5. This is receive the report related to the revised fiscal year 2024-2025 budget for the Commission on the Status of Women and forwarding to the Board of Supervisors for approval. Welcome once again.
Again, Ajane from the Clerk of the Board, Board Operations. Pretty straightforward item, just a revision to the budget, and we're here for any questions if you may have them.
Thank you. And I'll call on my co-chair.
I have no questions, just my continued gratitude to the work of the commission. So happy to make a motion to receive report.
Thank you. And just for a little background information, I believe that the only issue and the reason why this is coming forward is because of our mini grant program, which we raise our own funds for, and we give out money to deserving organizations and individuals that support women and girls. And I believe last year it was a more of a logistical glitch where some of the funds we had designated were from the previous year were actually released in the new year, which caused us to have a little bit of an overage, but it was all accounted for. So thank you.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, and I was actually going to ask you about that, but before I do, I'm going to ask Camille to see if there's any public comment on this item.
So there are no requests to speak on this item.
Wonderful. Okay, so I will ask, and you just answered the question I was going to ask about the unspent funds, and so I'll move on to my other comment that I wanted to make. And I know the commission really considers high-need populations, and so I talked a little bit about the Latino health assessment in the previous item. I'll talk about it again as we've recognized that there's a lot of need for gender-based violence support and work, and especially for agricultural workers and female workers that are part of South County. And so I'm wondering if you would incorporate some of these high needs populations into your consideration of grants.
I could say that we absolutely would, and we encourage anyone who's interested to apply for a grant, and then we consider those and award them. But that's definitely an area that we're very, very interested in, and in fact, we'd like to spend more time studying the farm worker community and their needs. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. Well, we are actually, I think, at the end, coming to an end of a survey for agriculture workers, and so I'm happy to connect with you offline. Okay, so we're going to keep going, and I'm just going to thank you once again for the work that you're doing, and ask Camille to call the vote.
And just to clarify, that was a motion to receive the report and to forward it to the Board of Supervisors, correct?
Yes, thank you, Camille.
Okay, thank you. So Vice Chairperson Young
Yes.
and Chairperson Arenas.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we are going to go into item 6, which is receiving the quarterly verbal report from the Office of County Executive relating to the county response to federal actions. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, David Campos, Deputy County Executive. There are a number of us who are presenting, so maybe I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. As you can see, this is a multifaceted approach that involves different operations of the county. So turn it to my right.
Good afternoon, Casey Halkin, Deputy County Executive.
Good afternoon, Ana Lilia Garcia, Chief Equity Officer and Director of the Division of Equity and Social Justice.
Good afternoon, Julie Ramirez, Program Manager, Division of Equity and Social Justice.
Hi, Monica Tong, Program Manager with Intergovernmental Relations.
Buenas tardes, María Leticia Gómez, Director of Communications and Public Affairs.
Do you want to?
Sure. Good afternoon, Sarah Duffy, Deputy Director, Social Services Agency.
Great. Thank you very much. If we can go to the first slide. And let me begin by noting that a lot is happening at the federal level. There are many things that the county is responding to, and we just want to be very clear about the presentation today. The presentation today is not about another big topic, which is H.R. 1 and the federal cuts that are connected to the actions of H.R. 1. This is actually just a report on the overall response from the county to the Trump administration. I don't need to tell you that this is a very moving target and it's a changing landscape. And I want to begin this presentation by noting the gravity of what we're dealing with. And for those of us who are Latino, Latina, Latino descent, we just had a very big major ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday in Nome versus Vasquez-Perdomo that essentially for the Latino community is the equivalent of the Dred Scott decision, Plessy v. Ferguson, but it's because it essentially gives carte blanche to ICE and federal agencies to racially profile for purposes of immigration enforcement. And in many respects, you know, that provides a context for the urgency behind this presentation. And as you're going to hear from different people here, the response that we have put together at the direction of the board and the county executive and the county chief operating officer is multifaceted. It really tries to include all communities, and you're going to hear some of the things that we're doing with the immigrant community, with the disability community, with the LGBTQ community, with women, with children and families. We have tried to be as inclusive as we can, and that's why you have different aspects of the county operations that are implicated. The one thing that I will note is that as someone who has the task of representing the county in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C., I can tell you objectively there's no other county that is doing anything near what Santa Clara County is doing. That's, if there's any silver lining to every horrible thing that's happening, that is one. You know, that isn't to say that more can't be done, and we're always learning what can be done. And with the fact that we have limited resources, how we shift those limited resources given the changing landscape and new things that come out of Washington, D.C. So if we can go to the next slide, and I will turn it over to another very important office, and that's our county counsel's office. So, Michaela.
Thank you, David. Michaela Lewis, Assistant County Counsel. The office has been very busy working on the federal response in a couple of broad categories. One is responding affirmatively to actions that are taken to harm the community. And two is kind of a broad bucket, and some of these are intertwined, of making sure that the county is well positioned to continue operating business as usual. And so just a couple of points that we'll go through that are reflected on the slide here. We've been working diligently to make sure that we're monitoring and well poised for any efforts to exclude undocumented individuals from the census. This was a lawsuit that was actually filed during Trump's first term, was temporarily paused and expected to be an active area in the future. So we're monitoring that to be ready to respond quickly. We are continuing to protect the non-cooperation policies of the county and also providing support to local school districts to advise them on that. We've filed a lawsuit to get declaratory relief to clarify that non-cooperation policies are lawful and also are not something that can be used as a condition of funding for federal grants and other funding sources. We've also brought a number of lawsuits relating to the dismantling of the federal government, which impacts the county's abilities to offer services, receive support from the federal government when agencies are being dismantled. And then finally, there have been a number of efforts and lawsuits in connection with local coalitions to challenge grant conditions that we believe and know to be unlawful that relate to DEI, LGBTQ plus services, abortion services, and immigration policies to ensure that the county has the funding it needs to provide the services to the community.
Thank you, Michaela. So besides the litigation efforts of county council and that office, which again, we are the leading county in terms of suing the Trump administration around these issues, we also are engaging in Sacramento. So to speak about that is Monica Tong about our legislative efforts.
Great, thank you, David. With the leadership of our county executive, chief operating officer, and our deputy county executive, the county has been increasingly proactive in policy and budget work, particularly in Sacramento. In the 2025 legislative year, our Board of Supervisors approved sponsorship of a standby caretaker bill that was introduced by Assemblymember Gail Pellerin as AB 1025. Under current law, the options for families with children to identify a caretaker are limited and many do not fit the needs of our community. This bill would have provided an additional option for families who are preparing for potential separation to designate a standby caretaker. For our community, this would have been a helpful option that did not require prior court action. Unfortunately, this bill was held in fiscal committee this year, but we are exploring options as we move forward and want to thank Supervisor Arenas for making the trek to Sacramento to help support that bill. Another bill that we supported in this space was AB 495 by Assemblymember Celeste Rodriguez that will expand the existing caregiver affidavit for our families. This bill is currently on the Senate floor and will have to be passed by the Friday deadline. Related to budget, the county, with special shout out to County Council and the Civil Prosecutors Coalition, advocated for funding to support litigation efforts and successfully got a $6 million direct allocation to Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Santa Clara County. The county also pushed back on the attempts to drastically change Medi-Cal for individuals with unsatisfactory immigration status, and were successful in getting some of those changes delayed. In mid-August, upon the return of the legislature from summer recess, they held informational hearings that impacted our community, that the county attended and provided brief comments for. And lastly, the governor and legislature are exploring options for special sessions to address these needs. We will continue monitoring, advocating, and providing updates. I'll turn it back to David.
And of course, a key component of our response is making sure that we continue to be engaged with the communities that are directly impacted by what's happening, especially beginning with the immigrant community. And to speak about the community engagement and community work are Dr. Garcia and Julie Ramirez from the Division of Equity and Social Justice.
Thank you, David. As we've noted already, the county organization has had a long-standing commitment and investment to our immigrant communities via programming and policies. As just one small example, in 2017, we were instrumental in the investment of the Rapid Response Network. So as we were preparing for the unknowns and the threats, the looming threats, in anticipation of the new federal administration policies, in December, the Division of Equity and Social Justice, in particular the Office of Immigrant Relations, in partnership with administration and our immigrant-serving community-based organizations, gathered to reassess needs. We convened our partners to better understand what are the priorities, what are the questions, what are the fears, what are the concerns of our immigrant communities. That convening informed the most recent investment of $8.1 million for direct immigration-related legal services, outreach and education, and the expansion of the Rapid Response Network. Now, this investment is the largest investment to date and builds on the county's decade-long investments in our services for our immigrant communities, including the emergency $5 million allocation made by the Board of Supervisors in 2024. As a result of this investment, 25 vendors were funded, and there were key considerations in those funding decisions, which included language and geographic diversity. And in addition to the funding for the critically urgent direct legal assistance that families need in this moment as they are in crisis, we also place emphasis in outreach and education, and DESJ continues to play a very important role in strengthening our partnerships with our community-based organizations to better understand needs on the ground, the ever-evolving crisis that is unfolding daily, and to be a bridge to that, not only information, and to be a better support to our community-based organizations that are in crisis. Now, with that, I would love to turn it over to Julie to provide you with an example of what is the Rapid Response Network, the Know Your Rights training, and the IPAN network.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. As she mentioned, the Rapid Response Network is there as a resource to our community to ensure that there's awareness of ICE activity. They train observers who go out in the community to confirm this activity, as well as provide communications to our community so that anxiety can be reduced if it turns out to be a false activity, or they can be aware if it is an actual ICE enforcement activity. They also provide accompaniment services to those who may be detained, to families who may be left behind if their loved one was detained, and provide legal assistance to any detained individuals. One way in which we keep tabs on the trends in our community is through the Rapid Response Network and staying engaged with the activities by receiving periodic reports from them, as well as through our contracting progress reports that they submit quarterly. Finally, another way in which we stay attuned to the activities in the community is through a community network group called the IPEN, the Immigration Protection and Empowerment Network. We've been a member of that network since its inception, and we continue to provide updates from the county and receive important information from community-based organizations, as well as a Rapid Response Network in that space. Related to our vendors, we meet with them monthly to also receive updates and respond in real time to any changes that they will need through the contracting process, through any modifications.
Thank you. Given the critical role that this committee and others have played in crafting our response, one of the big priorities from the very beginning was protecting families and children. And so to speak more about that and all the work we've done, I'll turn it over to Deputy County Executive Casey Halcon, and also to our Deputy Director of SSA, Sarah Duffy.
Good afternoon. As I'm sure you can tell, there's a lot of intersectionality between the presentations today. And certainly it's been established that one of the most vulnerable groups in our community impacted by the federal actions are our children and our families. The county has taken extensive work, multidisciplinary work, to protect children and families, particularly the most vulnerable that we might see through our Department of Family and Children's Services. My colleague Monica talked a bit about AB 1025, which is certainly a bill that we think would be beneficial, and we will be evaluating whether or not we can bring that forward again, because we do think it would be extremely beneficial to our community. DFCS, and I see we have Director Wendy Kinnear-Rausch here, has taken really proactive steps to ensure that the county is ready, available, and prepared to be able to work with children and families who may be impacted by what I think we can all characterize as very draconian immigration policies. So they've taken the step to pre-identify families who may be uniquely suited to be able to work with children who are removed from their families, essentially because their families have been detained by the federal government. Again, I think what's important to note here is that by and large, these are not children who will be victims of abuse in the traditional way that we see it through our DFCS system. These are going to be children who are deeply pained and deeply traumatized by the actions of a government. And so it's really important that when they come to our custody, if they come to our custody, that they're treated with compassion, with empathy, and with trauma-informed care. DFCS is actively engaged with the Rapid Response Network and IPEN should these referrals arise. They've also worked very closely with some of our resource families to ensure that they have the language capability to work with these families, and also that they feel prepared to talk with these families around trauma-informed support for children. I do want to note, then this will be covered in a later presentation, that we are seeing significant immigration-related impacts as well for gender-based violence. And so I think when we largely consider children and families, we can't talk about it without saying that these immigration policies are further victimizing already victimized women in this case, in most cases. With that, I will turn it over to Sarah Duffy, our Deputy Director of Social Services.
Thank you, Casey. I want to start out by just stating that I'm joined here by our 3 department directors who are all very critical in monitoring the impacts of federal legislation and have been very actively monitoring what's happening at the state level as well as with our county partners. Casey mentioned our Children and Families Director, Wendy. We also have our Aging and Adult Services Director, Vanessa, and we have our Employment and Benefits Director, Ilona. So all of us have been very proactively monitoring this. I'll talk briefly about some of the outreach activities that have been led by our Employment and Benefits Services Director and team. Our Medi-Cal program currently offers a full scope coverage to all income eligible individuals regardless of immigration status. And outreach is absolutely critical to ensure families know they qualify for and can enroll before the January 1st, 2026 deadline when the legislation is going to change. And Medi-Cal will freeze new enrollments for adults who do not have satisfactory immigration status for full scope Medi-Cal. This group will no longer be able to newly enroll in full scope Medi-Cal even if they qualified before. If eligible, they will be enrolled in only restricted level coverage. Also starting January 2026, Medi-Cal will reintroduce asset limits for older adults and people with disabilities. And so families need to understand how this affects eligibility and renewal. As such, the county is very proactively partnering with local clinics, schools, and community-based organizations to reach these populations. Outreach efforts include offering community members multilingual materials and culturally responsive messaging, and emphasizing renewal deadlines and documentation requirements. Also starting in 2026, federal rules will reinstate stricter work requirements for able-bodied adults without dependents, expanding the age range to 18 to 64 and limiting exemptions. While we don't anticipate that children and families will be impacted, we need to ensure eligible households enroll now and understand how upcoming changes may affect them. We're focusing outreach to groups most at risk of confusion or disenrollment due to shifting federal rules. For example, our low-income working families, former foster youth, and immigrant households. We're relying very heavily right now on our partnerships with local clinics, schools, and community-based organizations to help identify eligible families and distribute accurate information about CalFresh benefits and work requirement exemptions. And lastly, our DEBS department is conducting outreach efforts via texting and robocalls to all of our clients. And we're working very actively with the Santa Clara County Health Plan and Valley Health Patient Access, providing both training and informational presentations on public benefits so they're prepared to assist mutual clients and patients with completing redeterminations, signing up for benefits cal accounts, submitting documentation, and navigating through the redetermination or application process. And I'll just end by saying we're very happy and eager to partner with any nonprofit organization who has direct access to our potentially impacted clients and can assist with outreach.
Thank you. One of the things that was very clear at the beginning of the planning of this response, and I know that the county executive, the chief operating officer, based on our previous experience in the first Trump administration, were keen on, was making sure that not only were we supporting communities that were impacted, but that they also knew that we were supporting them and that we were present because of so much fear that exists in the community. And so to talk about our media campaign, our media strategy, is Leticia Gomez from our Office of Public Communications and Public Affairs.
Thank you, David. We officially launched a multimedia campaign with a press event on May 12. All 5 supervisors were there, as were the county executive and the chief operating officer. We had partners in the district attorney, the undersheriff, public defender, and also the consul general of Mexico attended. That event was very well covered in the media. We got lots of media coverage. There we go, in multiple languages as well. And we wanted to thank, from the Office of Communications and Public Affairs and the County Executive's Office, everyone's ability to show up, be there, speak up, and give interviews to media outlets that day. It's very important for the communities that are being targeted by the federal administration to know that we are here still providing services for them all. Part of the media buys that we secured include 2 high-visibility billboards on Highway 101, both north and south. One of them is in San Jose, and it's going to be displayed. It just went up, actually, on this Monday, September 8th, and it will be displayed through November 30th. The second one is in Santa Clara on Highway 101 South, and will be displayed from September 22nd through December 14th. We also have campaign materials in Spanish, English, of course, Vietnamese, Chinese, Tagalog, and Punjabi. And they can be seen on VTA buses, light rail, and transit stations. We have digital ads on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube Reels that you cannot fast forward, and kiosks at East Ridge Mall and Almaden Plaza, and also convenience stores located throughout Santa Clara County. Multilingual printed materials in the shape of posters, postcards, pop-up banners, and red cards have been distributed and are displayed throughout county facilities. And we also share those collaterals with community-based organizations and faith-based organizations so that they share them or place them in visible locations where their clients and communities attend. The media buys include radio ads in Mandarin, Spanish, and Vietnamese, as well as print and digital ads in local newspapers in Punjabi, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Spanish. And we also want to mention that we did an additional push in Spanish language radio and television because the Latino community is the most targeted at this point by the federal administration in terms of the ICE raids and the fear that has been spread. I had the chance to write, produce, and voice 6 30-second commercial spots on the topics listed on these slides. My favorite one is the one on how they portray us versus who we are. There's a link to it, so you can watch it. It's just a 30-second spot that was done 100% in-house, and it has been played on television, on Telemundo, Univision, and radio stations on Univision. And they will continue to run until the end of the year. David, back to you.
And I can tell you that those ads, because I was just in Sacramento this morning, that they're not only being heard in Santa Clara County, but in the entire region. And I've had people thank us for doing this because, as you know, ICE is actually running ads in TV and in radio, essentially saying we're going to come after you. And so the contrast of what they're doing, what we're doing, is really powerful. But it's not just media. If we can go to the next slide, we are trying to communicate in different ways. We have, as you know, a website in 6 different languages, and thank you to our language access unit for helping to make that happen. we're targeting different topics, different communities that we know have special needs, whether it's the LGBTQ community, the disability community. We're trying to present information that is relevant to them in a way that is relevant based not only on what we think, but based on what we're hearing directly from them. If we can go to the next slide, you can see all the information that is available. Of course, I can tell you as a member of the LGBTQ community that community is also being targeted, especially the transgender community. Their very existence is being questioned, and so there's a lot of fear in that community. If we can go to the next slide. We have, by the way, a web page. Actually, if you go back to the last slide, my apologies. There's a web page specifically focused on the LGBTQ community and provides different access to different services, information on those services that the county provides. Next slide. The same thing for the disability community, because we know that they are disproportionately impacted, and we want to make sure that that's included in any response that we put together. So this is the gist of what the county is doing. There's a lot more behind every piece of it, a lot more detail. Again, I'm grateful to the incredible work that's being done by all these departments. Behind each person that's here, there are many people who are doing a lot of things and many people who are on the ground. We're very proud of this work. I don't know if our Chief Operating Officer wants to add anything to this. But we're very proud to work in a county where we are proactively doing this and not just talking about it, but actually putting our money where our mouth is. And of course, the administration has a lot to do with that, but it's also our board that allows us to do that. So, Greta, if you want to close us out.
Thank you, David. I did, and so appreciate you giving me an opportunity to just thank all the staff for their leadership and actually really modeling what there is to do. I think there's such a pervasive feeling amongst folks throughout the community that they are so disturbed by what they're seeing. They're so afraid, they're so fearful, but don't really know what the right avenues are to respond. And definitely, I think it's a wonderful time, notwithstanding the fact that it's a very dark time to work for the county, because we are continuously stepping up. And I just want to thank folks. There's a real sacrifice of additional hours of time, certainly outside of regular work, that's being put in by the folks that you see before you and so many other county staff to really meet the moment and live our values as a county organization under leadership of the board, to really try and step forward, notwithstanding a lot of the fear even those folks who work for the county have in light of what's happening and how personal this is to so many folks. So just wanted to express my gratitude to be a part of the team that's doing this work, and to also be able to share that work publicly so that folks know what we hope other communities will soon join us in doing to really support the community that we serve.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the presentation. And before we continue with questions, Camille, you'll let me know if we have public comment.
We do have 2 requests to speak in the room, and so far no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, we'll have them have 2 minutes.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and call our speakers in person. You may come on up and line in the center aisle. We have Joanna Kent and Michelle Mashburn.
We're going to switch the order because she needs a little more stretch time access needs, so I'm going to go first. So I received the notice of the modified presentation and saw that 17 hours ago the ASL video was uploaded to YouTube on the Division of Equity and Social Justice. It has no captions or voiceover to it, which is important because the deaf, deafblind, and hard of hearing community includes both people that use ASL and those that do not. So this is not access, it's performance. What happens in Santa Clara County when equity is just words? A building rented after 1990 when the ADA went into effect with no accessible bathrooms, Are all the spaces in the county considered public, or do you keep them private to evade the disability accessibility standards? These are continued signs of how disability equity is ignored in practice. And while the county talks equity and talks about impacted communities, federal attacks are advancing. Cuts to education, healthcare, home and community-based services, benefits, and even civil rights laws. These cuts will harm people with disabilities no matter what the county does. We know we are often the most impacted as the few for the benefit of the many. Disabled people are institutionalized, imprisoned, or we die. Disabled people will continue to have this happen. Mentioning disability today does not erase the problem. Adding disability only after receiving a statement is performative. And with the gaps in what you're offering, it's questionable you've included it at all. Ableism is still a policy choice of this government. You don't include disability because you don't understand it as a social identity marker. Equity demands more than words. Please do better.
Hi, my name is Joanna Kent. I am the parent of a child with a rare disease that is pretty debilitating and will consume the rest of his life and mine and anyone around him. I wanted to come here today because I didn't see disability mentioned either, and I'm pretty disappointed it's not part of the survey, which we've brought up many times today. And I don't think you guys realize that the Latino population is most impacted by disability because they are underserved in disability. It bothers me that I have to be here when I'm supposed to be picking my kids up from school. It bothers me that most people can't be here because these meetings are at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when they're working, picking up their children, or doing all of it. It bothers me that the Office of Disability Affairs falls under this branch, and it took a letter from someone in our community to get something to change. It bothers me that I came here previously and said the Office of Disability Affairs is not being done the way that the people asked for, and it's still being done the way people have not asked for. It bothers me that I am on the IHSS advisory board as their chair, and we're like, disability is handled. We'll tell that to the 30,000 people that this county serves when their benefits get cut. I'll just let everybody know it's no big deal. Santa Clara has disability handled. Please mention disability. Please mention disability. It is very important. You guys forget that we are the largest minority in the world. And Santa Clara is supposed to be a leader, and that's what we expect from you, and that's what he says we have in Sacramento. Then show Sacramento that disability is important and not an afterthought. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and that concludes public comment.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's typical not to respond to public comment, but I will ask my colleagues to please follow up with the community to make sure that we incorporate the disability community in action and in words. I, in particular, understand that the Latino community has an impact of disability, especially around education, that is not addressed, and that there's a whole pipeline that is created because of it, and that is the prison, the school to prison pipeline. And so it really means something different to my community. When we talk about disabilities, my son has his own learning issues as he was premature, and without resources, he would maybe be in a different track. And so it does take all of us to shepherd each other and to remind each other about the needs of those that maybe we don't consider on a daily basis. And so I appreciate the message and the reminder. Thank you. All right, I am going to look to my co-chair to see if there's comments or questions.
Actually, Chair, I'd like to defer to you to speak first. This is something that you have led on the Board of Supervisors, and a lot of this is a product of the work that you have done. So I'd love to hear your thoughts first, and I'll follow.
Absolutely, and thank you. It was a referral that we produced, my office produced in 2024 as a response to the looming beginning of this federal administration that we all have seen has been devastating, and we're not even through the end of the year. It was heart-wrenching to hear that Latinos continue to be are allowed legally. There is a legal allowance to profile us, as if there wasn't already that freedom incorporated into the different levels of government and law enforcement. And so now it's carte blanche. And I know that there's some who say, well, you know, they're just going to pluck those who are citizens and here legally and just allow them to return back to their community. But we have seen time and time again where folks stay in jail for a really long time, that we all understand when you are held in jail for even 2 days, you may be fired from your job. It's not, nobody's going to come in and give you an excuse and sign an excuse for you to say, oh, you can miss work because we made a mistake. But this also sets the stage for a legal degradation of our community in a way that just really pains me. Because I've talked before about I'm a mother of a 17-year-old. He just turned 17 last week. And he is 6'3" and very proudly 220. Because he is on the football team and he has tried to get to that level. And so he from the back looks like a man, right? But this is a very innocent boy who is a good kid, and like him, there is many like him who will be treated differently, and the law is going to say, and it's okay to treat you this way. And so the messaging to our community once again is to scapegoat a certain community, and so I would like for us to make sure that we pivot with this new announcement that is legalizing the profiling and the misguided treatment of Latinos for no good reason. You could just go into detention and there's no ands, if or buts about it. It doesn't matter. It could be me. I obviously look like a Latina. And so nobody is going to be free of that. And so I don't know what that's going to mean for our community, except that there's probably going to be an increase in hate crimes. There's going to be an increase in all the type of crimes and shenanigans that happen when you allow for scapegoating in a country and in a community, especially in California, as we are a border state and we have plenty of Latinos residing with us, among us, and that's part of the beauty of it. And I really need for our messaging to be elevated. And I know that you're all working really hard, and I'm not asking for anything that I think that you wouldn't already do. But that messaging needs to be more mass and more really mainstreamed in a way that everybody hears about it. And if we have to TikTok it, obviously I don't TikTok. I don't do any of that stuff. But our younger generations do. I get entertained by it when people send me stuff. But other than that, I try to limit and stay focused and try to keep myself out of social media because it's so depressing. So we have to reach the masses, however we need to reach the masses. And I appreciate the campaign that we already have in tow. And I think that it's wonderful. I think it reiterates to our community that we see you, we hear you, and we continue to embrace you, right? And I love that. I love that for us. And so now, because of yesterday's terrible news, we need to make sure that we're responsive and we are pivoting in our messaging, and really, really quickly, because hate spreads like wildfire, right? It's so easy to find fault in somebody who is darker, less resourced, quieter, whatever people think that we are, or fiery, or whatever people think Latinas are or Latinos are. And so I think we need to make sure that we counter it with our own messaging about who we really are. And so I love that that you already started off, Leticia, on this track. And now I want us to like do it times a million, so that our voice and our messaging is louder. And you know, we have seen the governor do just an amazing, very ironic job, but very effective in his social media. And I love it. I love it. And I think that we need to also make sure that we counter and have our messaging, not only make our messaging elevate our messaging, have it be effective, have it be in the trend of whatever is in trend right now, and have a little bit of fun with it, so that we can also have a little bit of sanity. Does that make sense? Okay, and so then I hope that when this comes back, we can talk about it, or we can talk about it offline. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, and I appreciate the bill that you all worked on, that allowed me to support in, and I was very, very distressed when you told me that it was being held for fiscal concerns. And in the meantime, people are doing whatever they need to do, and that also includes listening to ads that say, we can help you keep your children safe and all of that. Just give us $500 or $1,000 or whatever it is, right? And so I think that's also part of our ads and part of our messaging, to ensure that we reroute people to the actual options that they can benefit from, those that are, whether they're, I think, probably more public than obviously private, right? One of which I think, and I'd love for us to figure this piece out. The new consul, shared with me that was it this week? No, it was last week, that there was an exuberant amount of people who came out to apply for binational status, and with that also binational passports. And that is a very complicated process. I have a sister who is binational, and it took her like about 1.5 years. And we don't have that time. We just don't. And I don't want folks to have a false sense of security that because they're going to have this passport in hand maybe 1 year from now, however long, because the bureaucracy in Mexico is respectable. And so it is here as well, right? We're no better in some ways in terms of our own bureaucracies. But when you're here and dealing with a Mexican bureaucracy, from a distance, can be a little more difficult. And so I want us to figure out with the consul, what are the other ways? This is one option, but what are the other options? Because if people are and to think about, and this goes with Sarah for you and for Wendy, what are our policies when people are detained and there's children that remain, whether they are, a policy for when they are, naturalized, or they are citizens, or they are not citizens. What are our options for those kiddos? Because right now, I think our parents think as long as they are binational, that they can then lend the caregiving to somebody in the country that they're from, whether it's Mexico, somewhere in Latin America, and then where does that leave us in terms of process, right? So I'd like for us to really suss that out and figure out with the Consul as a partner to give options to our community so that they also can figure out, be less stressed. We heard from an earlier agenda, poverty. I'm sure that poverty is something that really creates a lot of stress. But then on top of that is immigration, right? And then, of course, caregiving. And all of that is all braided into the issues that we are trying to address today, right? Or at least with that one particular bill. And I'd like for us to really delve into it a little bit more in the meantime while we figure out what other pathways we can take. I also wanted to figure out, is there any support that we are providing? I know that we're providing support to our school districts, but are we providing any legal support to maybe coordinate some lawsuits? Because I think at this point we have the U.S. Department of Education keeping about $1 billion from California, and so obviously that impacts our systems, even if education isn't under our purview, right? But it impacts our community. So is that something that?
I'll let Michaela chime in on any specifics, but in instances where we haven't been directly affected, but where we are certainly indirectly affected in many, many ways, as would be the case with what you've described, we've often participated in lawsuits filed by other directly affected parties as an amicus party, often in coalition with other similarly situated local governments. And I don't know if Michaela can weigh in on anything specific in that vein that is being explored.
Yeah, that would be great. Any institutions that are already being proactive and that we're adding to, or if there's something that's missing that we could prompt.
Yeah, I'll follow up on that specific source of funding. We are involved in a number of coalitions and lawsuits related to grant conditions that are impacting funding. But let me circle back with the team, and then we can update you on that specific venue of funding.
Wonderful. I really appreciate it. And, I'm going to go back, and thank you so much. I'm going to go back to my earlier point about the racial profiling of our community, and I don't know how that plays a part in coming into our school campuses now that they have an opportunity to do this. How does it change the environment and their ability, right?
No, that's a great question, and I can follow up more on that. My kind of initial thought, which is rarely my best thought, but I'll share it here as we think more about it, is because we have continued to give advice on non-cooperation, that the schools that have engaged in that will continue to follow those policies regardless of whether ICE is using other tactics to identify folks. But schools would continue to route people to the appropriate location, not comply with requests that weren't court-ordered or where there wasn't a warrant involved. But with this new decision, I think it's worth us taking a look at that and circling back.
If I may, one thing that I would add through the chair is that as these things are happening in Sacramento at the state level, there are conversations about what can be done at the state level to provide added protections. And so I know that there's an initial conversation happening in light of the Nome v. Vasquez decision. So we will monitor that and see where we can weigh in. I will give you as an example that in the area of vaccines, for instance, as the federal government is now looking to make vaccines unavailable, that we are at the state level looking to take action to protect access to vaccines, and the county is actually involved in that advocacy. So we will be watching what can be done at the state level to protect Californians to the extent that the state allows, state law allows us to do that. And so, that's something else that we're watching.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think you answered some of my questions that I had about some of the grant restrictions. The other piece I think that I'd love for us to figure out how to have maybe some additional coordination on is the support to the community in the form of the rapid response and those additional support services that go along with it. And I think that if I'm to assume correctly, typically contracts have a longer period of time to get done in any government, and I have seen it for sure in this government that be the case. And so I wonder how has our contract process played a part, or are we up and going and moving? Where are we at in terms of?
Yes, we can talk about that. We made a point at the very beginning of this process that we were going to have expedited contracting with respect to any of these services. So for instance, with the immigration legal services, we had contracts that were about to expire, and instead of going through an extensive RFP process, which can take anywhere from 6 to 9 months, we did an expedited process that took a couple of months, which was very fast, for how normally do that. And so that's the process that we followed, and we worked closely with County Council to create a new expedited form that allowed us to get the detail without going through the very cumbersome formal RFP. And so we're trying to figure out how we adapt to the circumstances. And then something else that you will see in our contracts is that instead of saying when you get money to do one category of services, that's all you're allowed to do, we gave flexibility in the contracts that they could shift, the services to a different type of contract that is envisioned, depending on what's happening at the federal level. We thought it was really critical to have that flexibility, and it's an ongoing conversation, so that if the strategy in DC changes, we can change with that strategy as well. So I don't know, Dr. Garcia, if you want to add anything to that.
The only thing to add is that the work is currently underway. And we meet with the vendors on a monthly basis, and we're preparing for our first quarterly report. We have a standardized form for reporting in which we can have shared language, shared metrics related to that, and we can better also understand barriers and challenges, not only through those monthly convenings, but also through the quarterly reporting, and how we can stay nimble and responsive in this moment.
I appreciate that. I don't know what those metrics are, but if you would share with us, that would be really helpful. And that way we can also keep track of it in terms of, what we expect those agencies to do. Because sometimes there's a disconnect between what we think that they're doing and what they're supposed to be doing, right? And so I think that would be really helpful so that we're all aligned. And maybe there could be a meeting of some sort, and maybe a special meeting just with, and I don't know what my co-chair thinks, but we could have a special meeting of a CSFC that pulls in just this topic, and we kind of burrow into the details a little bit more, or at least there's an update at length to see what those services are versus what we're dealing with out there. To me, there's a bit of a disconnect, and it's probably because I'm not the one doing the work a daily basis, right? And so there's a need for me to figure out what's going on. And then there's also reports that folks that come back to me. And of course, everything's always complaint-based, and I don't want to be. So this is my way of being more proactive and asking you to partner with me to figure out and understand this a little bit more so that I can be supportive in a more meaningful way.
Supervisor, if I may add, something else that we're doing, which is really important, is that there is an increased presence by DSJ in community. And so the monitoring of these contracts is a lot more intensive than it's been in the past. Again, you know, we trust what the work is that the work is being done, but we need to verify it. And so we're not only doing site visits, but we're also talking to the people that they're serving, you know, because that's really important. What it looks like on paper may be different than what's actually happening on the ground.
I appreciate that. You know, and this is not in a spirit of lack of trust. This is really in the spirit of urgency that I feel that I can't really describe, right? And I think we all feel it, and trying to do something locally is the best thing that we can do, right? And working together. And so I ask you to work with me to figure these pieces out, work with my co-chair and I, as this is really something that's important, not only to me, obviously, but also to my co-chair. I know that's really important to her. She has a significant population that needs a lot of support. We both do. And, you know, we want to be as helpful as we can. And so anyways, in the spirit of partnership and in community, I'm asking you to let's please pull something together so we can gain some more additional understanding. Those are the comments and questions that I had so far.
Thank you, Chair. Really covered most of what I wanted to also ask about. Thank you. I do have some questions. You know, specifically for DFCS and SSA, do we have a plan for a raid that would leave children without their parents?
So first, I would hope that would not occur, and I would say we would handle it the same way we handle coordination on other things when that sometimes happens in community when we may work with law enforcement and we know that there may be some activity and there could be children involved and we need to prepare for a larger response. And so we mobilize the necessary resources, more staff to be able to support, more homes that might be available. I think the other caveat that I would add in this is that we want to make sure we have those homes language capabilities depending upon where that might be, whether that's a Latino-based community, whether that might be another community with underlying immigration issues, so we would respond accordingly with that. So yes, we could respond and mobilize the resources to do that.
I want to add to that. I request that we also keep in mind that these will be children coming from loving homes where there is not a presence of neglect or abuse. So this is not exactly the system that would be designed to receive them in this situation. So I'm going to ask you to think broadly, more creatively, for alternative plans of response. I know that none of us, we hope and we pray that a raid would not come here, but the raids are increasing, and by October, DHS will be fully funded, and they will be meeting their staffing goals by then, their staffing goals for ICE agents. So I could only assume and expect that this mobilization of massive resources away from healthcare, away from food systems, away from education, has all been redirected to ICE and DHS. So by October, when they're fully funded, I would like for us to be as prepared as possible for this. We just saw the LA raids where nearly 100 children, some as young as 3, were dropped off at LA County's DFCS. The kids were there for 48 hours before there was a plan for them. And for those 48 hours, they were only given water, soda, and potato chips. So that is a worst case scenario, and I'm not trying to bring this up to denigrate our partners in LA at all. They were caught by surprise. We don't have to be. And to our team, and this is, please always know that my response and my feedback to you is always delivered with gratitude. I know how hard our county works. We're at the head of the pack in terms of having a mobilized response, the staffing, the investment of time and thought partnership into this. But like anything in our fair county, good work is rewarded with more good work. And for something as dynamic as this, where the landscape constantly changes as quickly as 48 hours ago with the Supreme Court decision, we have to continue to meet that moment. So yes, a response plan, a receivement plan, but also alternative plans for children who don't come from households or situations of abuse or neglect. And in community, there is, in my district, a lot of the parent networks are passing family planning packets to each other. These packets are not recognized by most of our schools. These packets, I don't know, are recognized by our agencies, but as we continue to move forward with state legislation, is this an alternative that we can turn to so that families are able to record and memorialize their wishes should they are not able to pick up their children, should they be detained or not able to be with their children? Can these packets be honored? Is there a way to operationalize it?
Matt, actually, if I can interject just briefly, I wanted to go back to something you said, 2 points. So I think what you're saying is incredibly important, that these families and these children who may come into our system are doing so being ripped from a loving home. And in addition to identifying resource families and language capability, we've also undertaken a review of our service providers, recognizing that we will need a different kind of help. The kind of help that the system is used to providing is around abuse and neglect, and this will be what is largely going to feel like government-sponsored abandonment. And so we are aware of that. We are looking at contractors that can support, and we are very lucky in this community, as you have said, to be really at the forefront of some of these issues and to have a broad community-based organization pool that we can work with to identify therapeutic resources, intervention resources, and assistance. So that goes, I think, in concert with our plan regarding our resource families as well. So it's certainly something we've taken into consideration given what will be a very unique situation for these families and for the system as well, recognizing that these children will have unique needs. To your comment about the family packs, you know, AB 1025 is something I worked on a lot with the county and with our legislative team. And we have gone out into community with our county council, with DESJ, with IGR, with a multitude of folks, including partnerships with DFCS, to help communities understand what their rights are and how to exercise those rights. And they are being proactive. What we've heard is that families are being proactive, schools are also being proactive. But I think, to your point, how we can help families understand that if they have guardianships in place, if they have other identified caregivers, that's really where we would prefer to see these children as well. And DFCS has a very, very robust program for identifying suitable caregivers. So that's kind of the third prong approach that we have in working with these families, is identifying the right resource families if we need them, identifying the right therapeutic and intervention supports, and also really ramping up our identification of suitable caregivers. Because ideally, we would like these children to remain in community, to continue to go to the schools, to be in the community where they've lived, to be with the neighborhood and the loved ones that they have. And so we have a very robust system in place. And if we were to find ourselves in a situation where these children were on our doorstep, to your point, we would mobilize all prongs of that approach to ensure that for most of these children, we would do our absolute best to keep them in community with wraparound support so that they could have their needs met while, of course, their immigration was pending for their family.
Yeah, I think in this landscape where rights and autonomy and independence is being ripped away from our communities and our families, being able to communicate that clearly, that we are striving to follow your wishes for your children and that you do have full authority there, would be helpful in that. And I know that IPEN has a significant body of work in this area in terms of family planning, in terms of family packet filling out. I mean, I would hope that I would like for us to be working with them to see what they're experiencing in real time in community in terms of what are the best instruments, what are the most easy to access, easy to use, and then on our side, what does it take for us for our operations, our government entities, to make sure that whatever tool ends up being used is something that would be honored and acknowledged and seen as legitimate by government's eyes.
Yes, absolutely. And I know DFCS has a very robust relationship with IPEN and the Rapid Response Network as well, because we know these fears are out in the community. And of course, DFCS and social services more broadly are working so closely with these families.
And I want to assure this committee that I've been in active communication with both IPEN and with PACT, and have some planning meetings held on how we get out that messaging, how we partner together, how we make sure we're honoring one another's roles and what we need to be doing. And I can assure you that we will be ready to mobilize, making sure both the families that are involved, those parents, as well as the children, are supported accordingly in any circumstance. I think the one thing I probably do need to go back and mobilize, if there is some large scale, making sure we've got food and resources and those type of things on stock, although we actively have visits with parents every day and have food and snacks and those type of things. But I think that's the one area I can probably go back and shore up and continue that messaging and planning.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. And I really look forward to receiving any type of, please, the sense of urgency is great. Chair has expressed that strongly here today, as well as the board. Once you have that process procedure finalized, if you could send that messaging to our board offices so that we could help stay on message, keep on message. Casey, David, thank you to you and your teams for working so hard on 1025. The reality of the situation is that I need to be able to tell my constituents today, tomorrow, who are worried about being separated from their children, here's what you do, 1, 2, and 3. It really, it's that level of direct communication. I also want to stress the importance for the county to have a tiered response plan for various levels of escalation should that arise here, should that arrive in our county here. And then the last point I want to share is that the city of LA yesterday released their ICE raid protocol that they developed from the ICE raids they experienced. So I would look forward to having future communications from our county council and from our staff in terms of the assessment of that protocol and whether parts of it or if all of it can also be adopted for our own protocols here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do have to thank you, Wendy, for attending our South County Youth Task Force cafecito and introducing yourself and allowing our community to understand DFCS role. That was very helpful. And I think it was just out of, you just did this on your own. But I think we need to make sure that these kinds of interactions are intentional, and so I really appreciate it. And I think we just need to continue to talk to parents about who we are, what to expect, and I think that can help reduce some of the stress in caregiving and certainly in the options that they may have, so that they're not just dealing with the consul on binationality and a passport that's going to guarantee we'll see how people are deciding how to care for their children, but that means a lot of U.S. citizens returning in childhood to Mexico, which is going to create a whole dynamic in and of itself. All right. I think, do we have a motion? No, we don't.
Motion to receive report inclusive of all the requests made by this committee today.
Wonderful. And so I will second that. And that includes having an offline special meeting so that we can learn more about the service providers. It also is about an update, or whenever this Is this scheduled to go to the board soon? I know this is my referral.
I think we were expecting to the chair do a quarterly meeting report.
Oh, okay. So in the meantime, maybe what we could do is work offline, and of course with my co-chair to figure out about messaging and just pivoting with what is happening in the recent days, and what we've seen. And I know I don't want us to work with a level of urgency that creates chaos, but I think to your point, co-chair, there is, I mean, we've seen it in Georgia at the Hyundai plant with the big raids. I mean, we have a lot of manufacturing. We have a lot of, California is very rich, and so there's so much targets. I'm surprised that we haven't been targeted yet, but I think to your point, in October, they'll be full force. And we don't know what that's going to look like, right? And so because we don't know what that's going to look like, I think we need to make sure that we continue to talk to parents through our schools and figure out, allow them to understand what our role will be if they are detained, and what their options are so that they can expand them. All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
No,
Greta.
I just wanted to chime in to say, I think we just to kind of reiterate a little bit of my takeaways from this conversation. I think you've heard, we are very far along in the planning for what we think would be the kind of more normal scale, but still shocking activities that we've seen, where we would see kind of individual kids as ICE activity is happening, potentially coming into county's care. I think what we can go back is really look at, given some of the very recent developments around the scale of a raid that you just mentioned that we're seeing evolve, and make sure that if there are any modifications we need to make to specifically address the issue you raised, Supervisor Yoon, about the notion of a potential large number of kids on one particular day coming into care. Are we also prepared for that possibility? And then we can, I think it's a great suggestion. I was going to make the same one, that we provide offline to both of you and the rest of the board a quick summary of what those plans and resources look like, so you have that and kind of understand our level of preparation for that possibility.
Wonderful. And then I think the other item was with Michaela, just to find out about the California, whether that billion that's being held, if there's anything that we can be supportive in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know it feels like I see you guys, and there's a hero in county council, as you've all been battling those fights very effectively. And so if we can help other systems within our community that supports our children, and especially our high school students, I would really encourage us to start thinking about how to take that role. As I don't see any real unity and leadership just yet in the educational institutions that are local to us. There's a run for a superintendent, and so there'll be a lot of talk, but I haven't seen any real action. And probably because they're just really busy. I'm not, this is not a criticism of the system. I'm sure the systems are already very much overwhelmed. And so any role that we can play in doing that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I have it, and I'll follow up on that. And thank you for the kind words for our office, too.
No, absolutely. Think the world of you and county council and all the folks who take part in this fight, including those folks who are sitting in front of me, because you've all been part of the, you have your capes. They're in the wind. And we're ready for you all to really lead us in these efforts that, I think you can hear it from us in terms of concerns, because this is something that is going to be equal to the very shameful times in this history of this country, where there was repatriation of citizens, specifically of Mexicans, and there is a history behind that. And this is just another repatriation, but at a very gross level, where people's rights are going to be completely ignored. And so I think we need to be ready not only for our children, which I absolutely support, and I thank you as supervisor, because yes, we need to have such level of consideration for our children, as this is going to be trauma to them and to the people in their lives. And we are going to be that safety net that's going to capture those children as they grow older. And so whatever we can do now, as much as upstream action that we can do now to help stabilize and maybe prepare our families as much as we can. I just would love to see that with all of you. I know that you've all probably are very tired because you've done a lot of work, but I'm asking you to, I don't know, let's put our capes back on and work with us so that we can help you support our providers out there. All right, so that is our motion. And Camille?
Right, Vice Chairperson Young?
Yes.
And Chairperson Arenas?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Perfect. Thank you so much for everything. We have our next item. It is item 7. And this is receiving report from the Office of County Executive relating to gender-based violence, supporting services, strategies, and funding. This is my referral from June. I'm sorry. The other one was a referral, but not from June. And so I'd love to welcome you.
And I'm going to kick this one off, Supervisor, if that's okay.
Oh, please do.
And
Kick us
actually,
off.
before I kick it off, I was hoping that we could actually hear this item and item 12, knowing that we have about an hour left in this meeting since there is a hard stop today at 4. A little bit of time sensitivity to making sure we get both of those items heard, because as I'll explain in a moment, there's a item related to these two items that will be going to the full board on September 30th, and we want to make sure that we've had the opportunity to have the committee level discussion on those two items before they're brought to the full board. So so maybe I'll pause for a minute and see if that works for both members of the committee. Okay, wonderful. So items 7 and item 12 are part of a set of 4 items being brought to various board committees following the budget hearings. As Supervisor Arenas, you just mentioned, this specific one was based on a request that you made related to receiving more detailed information on our current expenditures related to gender-based violence, and specifically gender-based violence contracts, as well as the second item, that will be item 12, which relates to funds spent on prevention services by DFCS. These items, along with an item that went to Public Safety and Justice earlier this month related to expenditures under AB 109 for contracted services for the reentry population, as well as an item that went to FGOC yesterday related to our expenditures on immigration related service contracts, are really being teed up in the same way at the committee meetings to make sure that as we head into what will be a truly, truly challenging and pretty unprecedented for most of us, as we've in the tenure that we've all worked for the county budget season coming up, where we're going to be facing, as a result of federal actions, really devastating cuts across our services, wanting to, in response to feedback that we've gotten from the board, provide more context on some of our current expenditures in the lead up to the budget hearings, and really expressly ask at the committee level and at the full board level for some policy input from the Board of Supervisors that we will then, as administration, include as part of our budget instructions to departments as they start going through the really perilous process of trying to make proposals to meet the budget reduction targets that we know will be part of the fiscal 26-27 budget process. And in particular, in all 4 areas that we've teed up, we have very highly valuable services that touch really critical policy priorities for the board. And so some really challenging paths ahead for our departments, for county administration, and for the board as we need to create a balanced budget in a context where we would all love to be expanding rather than contracting services in all of these areas. So on the request for information on gender-based violence, as well as the next item on prevention funding, we've really tried as best we can to lay out the very complicated set of information, rich set of information that really tries to ground the committee and the public in as much context as we can on sort of ebbs and flows and funding levels, where all of the funding related to this issue area lives, how it's currently being expended, and then to make sure that we can tee up an opportunity for your policy guidance or any other input you want to give. And I will say our plan on reporting to the full board will be to take whatever guidance the committees have been providing in these sessions, capture that in the cover ledge file that will go to the full board on September 30th for full board affirmation of whatever policy direction the board wants to provide at this juncture in the process, knowing that there'll be many more opportunities as we proceed farther into the year in the budget process, but really wanting to give the board that upfront opportunity to provide any guidance or considerations that they would like county administration to include in the instructions we give to departments as they start formulating their proposals. So with that, I will turn it over to Casey to begin our presentation on item 7.
And before you begin, I appreciate you prefacing it with the need to prioritize, right, and to be very hyper-focused. And offline, I'd like to talk with you about our priority setting, because that's been set aside. Instead, we're moving forward with a strategic plan, which to me doesn't make sense. And so before we continue with a process asking us to prioritize without having a priority setting process, to me is feels a little circular, and so I know that you're asking us that this is not the first bite of the apple, but you're asking us to bite, right? And so I just think that we need to figure out what is it that we're biting and how are we going to do that, right? And so I just like to ask you to consider what we have already discussed in terms of priority setting before we start making decisions from a process that is kind of in parallel.
Totally understand, and I think that is very sensible feedback. I think just to maybe clarify how we're thinking about this in those broader contexts, absolutely, the previously adopted board priorities guided last year's process will guide this upcoming process. Whether the board determines to proceed with a similar priority setting process as we used before, or instead to embark on the strategic planning process, administration's happy to support both approaches. I think as we envision these 4 items, we envision them as an opportunity for the board to share any feedback it would like to be incorporated as to this specific area. And so I'll maybe tee it up most simply in the context of AB 109, given that we have a structural deficit and AB 109 are going to need to make some reductions to close that structural deficit. That item that went to PSJC and will proceed to the full board was a specific opportunity to kind of weigh in on those AB 109 related cuts, given some feedback that we received specifically from Supervisor Ellenberg on wanting more discussion at PSJC on that front. I think if the outcome of this discussion is we appreciate the rich information on these specific areas, but we're not ready to provide policy feedback because we feel more comfortable doing so in the context of that broader organization-wide priority setting, we're happy to bring that as the feedback of the committee as well. So that would make sense to me, and thank you for that clarification at the beginning.
Thank you. Go right ahead. Welcome again.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Casey Halkin, Deputy County Executive. I'm going to go ahead and let my distinguished colleagues introduce themselves.
David Campos, Deputy County Executive.
Ana Lilia Garcia, Chief Equity Officer and Director for the Division of Equity and Social Justice.
Maribel Martinez, Program Manager with the Division of Equity and Social Justice.
James Gibbon Shapiro, Assistant District Attorney with the District Attorney's Office.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, in the interest of time, this was a very robust report. The slide deck is similar. And so I'm happy to go through it, or we can pivot and take your questions on the report and the information, or focus on specific areas. We're ready to address whatever works best for Madam Chair and Vice Chair.
Sure. If you want to just give a quick summary so that whether it includes slides or not, just for our residents at home who may turn this on in the middle of the day or at a later time, just understand what was part of it. And yeah, you probably could do that really quickly.
Yes, I dream of this report in my sleep. I can absolutely do that. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So as Chief Operating Officer Greta Hansen teed up for you, this report really responds to a few asks. So number one, gender-based violence services funding with a focus on our contracted services. So the report in front of you outlines both the service and support for gender-based violence, the contracts that we have available through the Office of Gender-Based Violence Prevention. Those contracts are in several key priority areas, including rape crisis centers. And that total funding is approximately $13.7 million. We also gave, for purposes of information, allowing for a more holistic recommendation and review, gave additional information on other contracts that we have related to gender-based violence. So there is a summary of other contracts in different departments for direct services. That totals somewhere between, I think it's about $4,200,000. We also gave you a summary of positions that are allocated to direct gender-based violence support. I think it's important to note in that chart that we really tried to keep it as focused as we could on those positions that directly support gender-based violence support and services. We did not include those positions that may have more ancillary support. So something like a district attorney crime analyst who may look at evidence in a domestic violence case. We did not include that, but we did include, for example, those investigators in both the district attorney's office and the sheriff's office who may be directly dedicated to family violence. So those are the three really broad areas of interest in the gender-based violence services, and we can certainly break it into the 7 categories. We do have slides on that, and we can tee those up if you have questions. The reason why we have those 7 categories of service is because that is how those contracts in the Office of Gender-Based Violence are categorized, and this was in collaboration with the agencies and really bucketed the work that they do in those broad categories. The other contracts that are mentioned that are more broad to the county organization as a whole, those are not bracketed in the same way. So to your point about kind of trying to understand what the priority setting is, we have a lot of contracts that are more broad. A good example of that, for instance, would be the Office of Supportive Housing, which has a robust contract with our DV agencies for emergency shelter, but as a part of that contract also has access to case management and advocacy. So it may be more broad than the 7 categories outlined. We also wanted to respond and provide information for Madam Chair for a request that you had made about the disproportionate gender-based violence rates in the Latino community. I think we've had a very heartbreaking and honest conversation today about the Latino community and how under attack it is in the current state of the federal government. And unfortunately, we do see through the Latino Health Assessment very high rates of gender-based violence in the Latino community. And so we do have some information in the report on that as well. One item of concern for many of our partners here, certainly for this committee and the board in general, I think is planning for upcoming sporting events that are coming in 2026. Those include most notably the Super Bowl and also FIFA World Cup. And unfortunately, while those events can bring tourism and can bring monies to our community, they can also increase rates of sexual exploitation and human trafficking. This community has some experience working in that arena before. We've hosted a Super Bowl here before, but the FIFA World Cup is really on a level that is quite bigger than anything we've seen and goes for a longer period of time. So that'll be several weeks of games, practice matches, and also viewing parties. So the District Attorney's Office, Santa Clara County Human Trafficking Task Force, is working in deep collaboration with our community-based organizations. You saw a presentation at the Human Trafficking Commission recently, and working on the No Traffic Ahead campaign. So those meetings are happening routinely and regularly and will probably ramp up in 2026. I'll just note that one item of concern that we are addressing is what we anticipate may be a lack of hotel beds for some of our human trafficking survivors who may need alternative shelter. And so I know that is an item, for example, that they're working on very diligently between the county partners, including the Office of Supportive Housing, and also our community-based organizations. I am joined by Assistant District Attorney James Gibbon Shapiro, who has a lot of information to share with this committee on gender-based violence enforcement and prosecution rates. And I'll turn it over to him if he would like to provide a summary.
Sure. So first, in the last 10 years, reported domestic violence in our county has gone up each of the last 10 years. And that has also been true for sexual assault, including child sexual abuse. I want to point that out to make a sharp contrast to something that's happened in the first half of 2025 that is directly relevant to the conversation that's been happening in this room today. So despite the fact that every year, for actually the last 13 years, reported domestic violence in our community has gone up, in the first 5 months of 2025, 911 calls related to domestic violence in the city of San Jose fell by 14%. It is, I guess, possible that there is less domestic violence happening suddenly in our community in 2025. But it is much more likely that the fear of contacting the police and engaging with government services is driving people to not reach out for services, not reach out for help that they need. And we know that the help that they get when they start with the 911 call, when they reach out to domestic violence agencies, actually has been very effective. And I want to point to one enormous success in our community. So in the early 1990s, we started in this county being a leader across the country in all sorts of areas related to gender-based violence, and started keeping all sorts of statistics. I want to highlight one, which is domestic violence-related deaths. So in the first 15 years after we started all those programs, and as those programs grew and became mature, we had a little bit over 12 domestic violence-related deaths every year. Some years more, some years less, but an average of 12. But in the last few years, we've had 5 too many, but we've had 5. And that is a dramatic difference from where we started. And it's a reminder, despite the fact that we're not at zero, that the effectiveness of the interventions that have been championed by this Board of Supervisors and by the people in this room and our forebears who held all these roles for years before us have been remarkably successful. And also, as I talk about that dramatic reduction in recent years in domestic violence deaths, that is also at a time when reported domestic violence has been going up. So people asking for help and that lethality has gone down. Thank you very much.
If I may, I would also like to add a point that in gender-based violence more broadly, certainly rates of domestic violence have also increased. We've seen a similar trend with sexual assault. That includes forcible child molests. I think one of the really successful projects that we've launched here in this county under the leadership of the board is the Children's Advocacy Center, which unfortunately we anticipated when we opened we would see 250 children the first year. We saw nearly 400. We are now approaching 1,200 this year if the trend continues. So we've seen a huge increase in the number of children that we are seeing at the Children's Advocacy Center. I think it's important to note 2 things. Is that because there has been an increase in this type of abuse in our county, or is it because we have created pathways for families to seek help and to seek services? That is a difficult question to answer, but certainly we are among the forefront in terms of co-location and trauma-informed services for those families. As Madam Chair is aware, and under her leadership, we have allocated substantial funds to open a second location for the Children's Advocacy Center in South County. So we are continuing to expand access for those victims as well. Why we include that as part of gender-based violence is because 75% of the children and youth that we see for child sexual abuse identify as female. And so child sexual abuse in our community is a gender-based violence crime. So that is a very quick summary of a very lengthy report, but we are all happy to answer questions and to clarify any points for this committee.
Thank you. And before we do, I'll ask Camille for any public comment.
So we have 3 requests in chambers and 3 hands raised on Zoom.
Great. So we will.
Yes, go ahead.
We will do. You said 3 and 3.
Yes, so 6 total.
6 total. That puts us at
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. We'll go ahead and actually, because we are going to lose our co-chair at 4. I want and so sorry. I don't mean to put you on blast there. I apologize. I just need you. I want to make sure that we hear from folks, but I'm going to reduce it to 1 minute so that we can continue, and hopefully we can touch all of, and finish the 3 remaining items.
All right. So I'll go ahead and call our speakers in person.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So please go ahead and line at the center aisle. Perla Flores, Siberia Moreno, and Kim Gutierrez.
Good afternoon, Berta Flores on behalf of the Santa Clara County Domestic Violence Advocacy Consortium, also known as DVAC. And first, really want to thank the board and all of our partners for preserving critical safety net services for fiscal year 25-26. And we understand that the county again faces very challenging decisions for fiscal year 26-27. And we also appreciate and count on your continued commitment to survivors. As you weigh these difficult choices, we urge you to prioritize safety net services for survivors of gender-based violence, including 24-hour crisis line and response, emergency and supportive housing, and long-term advocacy and support. We submitted also a memo and a report that highlight the impact of our services, who we serve, our demographics, et cetera. And just want to emphasize that every dollar counts and every survivor matters, and we urge you again for your continued support. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, supervisores. Mi nombre es Siberia Moreno. Soy sobreviviente de tráfico humano. Hoy quiero resaltar la importancia y lo crucial que fue para mí haber tenido la posibilidad de llamar a la línea crisis en el momento más decisivo de mi vida, cuando escapé de mi traficante en la ciudad de Palo Alto. No sabía qué hacer ni a dónde acudir, pero fue a través de esa llamada que Community Solutions atendió todas mis necesidades más urgentes, me brindaron transporte y me llevaron a un lugar seguro, a un shelter, que fue confidencial y donde pude estar lejos del abuso de los criminales. También recibí servicios de manejadora de casos, quien me dio todos los servicios para poder acudir con mis miedos, mi confusión y la desinformación. Yo pido, por favor, a los supervisores que sigan apoyando estos programas porque cada dólar cuenta y cada sobreviviente vale mucho. Muchísimas gracias.
Hi, good afternoon. Kim Gutierrez, Anti-Human Trafficking Program Director at Community Solutions. I'm just wanting to say thank you for the support and commitment to serving survivors of gender-based violence. Really wanting to focus on the preservation of the critical safety net services, the 24-hour response, long-term case management, emergency and supportive housing. These services are critical in ensuring that survivors have the safety and the lifelines here in this community. Funding cuts to these support services mean cuts to these life-saving safety net services, and prioritizing one service category over another sends the message regarding what's important. So really, we know that there's difficult budget decisions ahead. We appreciate the continued commitment. Every dollar matters. Every survivor counts. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll move to our Zoom speakers. Our first speaker is Melissa. Melissa, we are unmuting you. You will have 1 minute to speak. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Melissa Luke. I'm the Chief Program Officer of Healing and Justice at YWCA Golden Gate Silicon Valley, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Santa Clara County Domestic Violence Advocacy Consortium, or DVAC. I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors and this committee for their continued support for essential services for survivors of gender-based violence. We want to name the incredibly difficult position of identifying only 3 out of 7 essential categories of service. It is a false choice. Survivors and their families don't experience services or violence in silos. We urge you to recognize the essential value of every service area, recognize they are interconnected, reflecting the totality of a survivor's healing journey. This funding sends a powerful message that violence is not acceptable in our county, and we are committed to stopping not just the initial emergency response, but the prevention and therapeutic services that help survivors heal. Thank you for your time and attention. Every dollar matters. Every survivor counts.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Parent. Parent, we are unmuting you. Please go ahead.
We really do have a big problem in this county when it comes to violence and also forced child molestation. And the reason is because the district attorney's office doesn't properly address these issues. And James Gibbons Shapiro is quite correct that people are afraid to contact government services. And I'll tell you, I am. I wish I never did, because once I told the district attorney about the sexual molestation of my kids and the violence, the horrific violence that was perpetrated against me, charges were filed against me. And these charges are covering up the crimes that I've reported, and they also, they're incentivizing further abuse against me. This is just, it's crazy that's going on in this county. And if you want to look it up, Google DA Jeff Rosen petition, sex trafficking, all those terms together, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's really crazy what's going on in this county, and we need to stop it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Sharon. Sharon, we are unmuting you. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Sharon Deneau with the South Bay Coalition to End Human Trafficking. I want to just acknowledge how difficult the decisions are for the Board of Supervisors in this coming fiscal year, and also want to call attention again to legal services being extremely crucial for survivors of various forms of gender-based violence. What we know in terms of needs is that with human trafficking and other forms of violence, there's often complex legal needs and the need for wraparound services: immigration, family law, housing, public benefits, legal rights, or victim rights. And we know that these need to be very accessible in terms of a hotline, language access, and also being physically accessible to survivors in our community. I also ask that you consider how important reputation and social capital are for the legal service providers who are being funded. 2 of our main providers have lost funding, but are still receiving referrals. This is of great concern, especially with the 2026 sporting events coming up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and that concludes public comment.
Thank you. So I'm going to turn to my co-chair for any comments or questions, if you have any.
I'm actually going to turn back to you, Supervisor. As this was your referral and your original body of work, I would like to hear from you first.
Sure. First of all, I just want to say thank you to our public that has taken the time to be here and give us your feedback and remind us how important it is to support our survivors of gender-based violence. And of course, to the speaker, le agradezco muchísimo que haya venido y que usted tome esa libertad de compartir su historia, su testimonio, porque no cualquier persona lo hace, y es evidente de la ayuda que usted ha recibido en su habilidad de poder compartir, con que se lo agradezco bastante, y muchísimas gracias por estar aquí. So I just said I appreciate what the message that she shared as a survivor of human trafficking. It is evident that she's received the kind of services that allow her to provide the testimony and to share the importance of the services that are in our community, and so I just thanked her for that. You know, I'm glad that you do that because it does anchor us, right? We're talking about. Earlier, I mentioned the school to prison pipeline. This is the other. In the school to prison pipeline, we know the percentages from the Latino Health Assessment about the number of kiddos who are not graduating, the kiddos who are not reading by third grade level. All those indicators that help us understand whether they're going to be successful or not successful, and then added to that is a chronic absenteeism that we know that has come from the pandemic and the isolation that has happened over the last couple of years. And for that, for many reasons, we know that that school to prison pipeline is going to grow. And it's going to be brown and black. That's just the reality of it. I have an urgency to interrupt that because that means for me, generations that will be better off and will be able to thrive and live in a community that they were born in. And in parallel to that is this other pipeline that impacts mostly young girls and those who identify as such. And this pipeline typically is due to sexual assault and sexual abuse. And we all know that the research shows that the number one reason why girls go into the juvenile justice system is because of unresolved issues around sexual abuse. So if they don't receive those services, there's a track for them to be more likely, and the research shows you're more likely to have another sexual assault. And you may go into this other pipeline, which is sex trafficking, sex work, or intimate partner violence, right? And it is equally important to me to ensure that just as much as I want to be strategic and focused about the work that we're all doing, because I do want to do that. This is one of the reasons why I brought up the priority setting process, is because it allows for us to be very focused about it. I don't know that this approach, in terms of asking us to focus which of the elements or the service categories are the most important for gender-based violence, because you're asking me which is the most effective or which is the service that is that we should invest in the most, rather than all of these service categories allow for us to have a level of success that that is produced in evidence from our public speaker to come and speak to us in a way that shows some kind of peace and maybe some healing and now advocacy on her part. And so I don't know which part of my body I would like to cut first. I find like that's a really silly question to me. I can't answer that question. I rather look and see where can we find efficiencies in the system, right? Where can we find efficiencies in the system so that we can then make those kinds of reductions that are considerate, but considerate of the comprehensive delivery that has been developed over the years, and that you've made a point, James Gibbon Shapiro. I don't know why I need to say your whole name when I say your name. But in terms of the mortality rate, right? So this in essence is we've developed these ways of serving our community that allow for us to find interventions in any of these ways. And so which one am I going to reduce? I would like to first be asked, not be asked about this. Don't ask me which part of my body I'm going to cut, because that's what it feels like. I first would like to hear about what efficiencies can we create? Where can we reduce without impacting the service levels and the effectiveness of what we found to ring true to our survivors? Because the reality is that we're all going to have to, all of the departments are going to take a reduction. I want to, I'm all about children and families. I want to protect our child welfare system, because those are children who are being abused, and I want to wrap my arms around that system and say, don't you dare touch this system, right? And I want to say the same for gender-based violence. I want to say the same for so many other areas that I know are root causes for a lot of issues that are created then for brown and black communities to come into our systems of probation and jail and all of that. So I'm not sure how to proceed from here, because this, I understand that there may be an opportunity for us to align services or realign services in a way that allows for us to be more effective or more efficient. And so I apologize, but I don't know that I can answer this. Like, I have my 3 top ones, but I also have all the body parts that I have on my body. I would like to keep them, And this is what I feel about the service categories for gender-based violence. I want to keep all of them. Can we reduce them in a way that is not going to impact services? Then that's what I would like to explore. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and I appreciate your comments, because I think what you described is exactly the feeling that we have on the part of county administration, and certainly also the feeling at the departmental level of, the programs and services, both county operated and contracted, are a labor of love for the departments that administer them. Of course, we all aspire to deliver the services in the most efficient, effective way. I think after a couple of years of budget cuts, we've really put what you just said at the heart of a lot of the work that we've asked departments to do in coming up with their proposals. I think the challenging reality that we all face, and you just hit the nail on the head of why it feels so perilous, is that twofold. One, we've done a lot of that work in the last 2 cycles, so we've sort of picked a lot of the low-hanging fruit that we knew was available. The choices also that we have to make as a county organization are complicated in that this funding is allocated in different ways. And so I just want to highlight the really tremendous effort to try and pull together as comprehensively as possible, not only the contracted work that's really specifically focused on addressing the needs of survivors of gender-based violence, but also the work, some of which James spoke about, is happening through county staff in various departments, really impacting this critical issue in a multitude of ways. And there's even much more work than was captured, I think, since some of the materials were put together, and Marielle was going to chime in a minute to flag a few things that probation realized they hadn't included that are pretty directly applicable here. And so I think before I turn it over to Marielle to let her make sure she can chime in with a little bit of additional information on that, I think one of the complex aspects of staring down a deficit of the magnitude that we're going to face is wanting to make sure that we don't, in our reluctance to cut any of the many incredible programs and services we're delivering, actually kind of give every single program and service a haircut that really makes some of them no longer functional. So just to take a concrete example, if to really have a robust program, you need 5 staff, and we take one away, and so those 4 staff can't really be effective, it really was a decision to either take that whole program down or leave it as a whole program of 5 staff. And so there's a lot of choices, I think, that where we've already cut it down to the minimum in different places where we are going to actually have to look at real shifting of programs. And so I think it is hard in the context of kind of this tee-up of information. I think perhaps what we hope to have accomplished, even if there isn't clear direction that can be given in the moment, but to ground the committee in a better awareness of all the places where we're investing in gender-based violence, and actually the complexity of the work that we're asking departments to do to really first prioritize doing exactly what you said, Supervisor, which is looking for ways that we can render the services more efficiently so we can lower our costs while still delivering the same level of care. I think the next order of instruction that we always give is look at which services, first of all, cut anything that's not, that we can reduce, that's just our kind of operating expenses that really don't affect the quantity of safety net services we're delivering. And then when we have to get into that really painful, which part of our body do we chop off, really trying to be laser focused on what services we're delivering we know have the strongest either evidence base or highest level of efficacy or the most well utilized in the community, or really respond to community feedback around what their highest priorities are. And all of those really are part and parcel to the instructions that we're giving. But even in that context, I think maybe it's just then mostly an opportunity to really alert the community to the magnitude of the concern we have about how deep these cuts are going to go, and that we are going to be making choices, for example, perilous trade-offs of making sure the folks who are already experiencing gender-based violence have the emergency services we need versus how much are we trying to invest in prevention. And we're getting to a point where the level of service we're delivering is just not going to be fiscally sustainable given the magnitude of the cuts that that we have on the horizon. So really appreciate the feedback. We'll try to capture that as best we can in what we bring forward from this discussion, as well as what feedback we hear from Supervisor Yoon, but did want to just give that context that I appreciate the comments because they are consistent with the messaging we've been given, and definitely that first focus on efficiency, first focus on drawing down more revenue to support our current service levels are always going to be the things we reach for before we reach for any service reduction.
Agreed, and thank you for that response. I asked this during the budget process, and that was like, how are we making decisions about what we strike on our line items? And since we don't have a program-based budgeting, it's really difficult, right, for us to figure out what that means when there is a reduction. It's a 10% reduction or a 3 or whatever percentage reduction. And the harm that we do is greater than the benefit of the reduction, right? And so then I think you have to make that really difficult decision about do we get rid of this program because it's not as efficient, and can we rely on another way, another modality, a contract or something else that can deliver the service for us? But then we also have to figure out with our own employees to also produce the kind of results that we want them to, right? That we hold them equally responsible and accountable, because these reductions are hurting everyone, right? And so can you add this or that? Can you produce this amount so that we can keep this many folks on, right? So that we then we can eliminate that particular program in one way or another. Those are really difficult decisions. I don't think that we're going to solve for them today. I really appreciate the effort that it takes to bring all this information together, because I understand that there is no system that and that is part of the problem. Greta, I know that we shouldn't be investing when we are trying to pluck from, but part of the problem for maybe some of the inefficiencies of our system is that we don't have a system that allows for us to take a look at the effectiveness of our programs, right? that it doesn't really bubble up. It doesn't bring everybody together. We have to do this massive effort. And how often can we really do this massive effort? And can it get done in other areas where there isn't a Casey and a David and a Dr. Garcia? You know what I mean.
I do know what you mean, and I'll just make two comments, and because I think you've hit on two distinct but really important issues. One is how do we put ourselves in a better position to do the exercise we've done in preparing this item, which is how do we kind of collect across the county all the work that we're doing to affect a particular issue and really show that investment. We've obviously created the capacity to do the children's budget. We've increased our capacity to do these items, and I think we're really laser focused on how can we better respond to some of the questions we've gotten from the board like this. And so this exercise, I think, is one that was a challenging one, as was the AB 109 information collecting, and the one that you'll hear about in a minute on item 12, but easier to update and replicate now that we've done it once. And I think we just continue across the organization to try and do that. The second issue that you raised around the efficacy of the services that we're delivering, we had a little bit of a discussion focused on that at Public Safety and Justice. And I think, we have different ways of tackling that problem, and we also have some different challenges in tackling that problem. One is a wonderful challenge, which is many of the folks that we serve through about 6 different programs because they have different needs. So they may be getting behavioral health services, they may be getting income support through DEBS, and they may be getting these gender-based violence services. So figuring out what was the impact of any particular program on a person enrolled in multiple is often really challenging to do. We have done that really complicated analytical work to try and isolate the impact of particular programs, but sometimes it's hard also because the number of folks served doesn't really lend itself to that level of evaluation. So often we instead look, and I think this is really important, to which of the services we delivered have an evidence base out there in the world that we know we're implementing the right practices in a particular space based on the research that's been done on what are the right approaches to take in delivering services. So that's another lens that we bring as we try to make some of the perilously challenging recommendations we'll be making to the board is really, and this was part of the feedback from Public Safety and Justice on the AB 109 item, is please focus your proposals on preserving services that we know have a strong evidence base to support their effectiveness. So those are just the 2 comments I wanted to make in response to the important points you're raising.
Thank you. I'm going to check in with my co-chair to see if there was any comments or. Oh, I'm so sorry. Mariel, oh, please forgive me.
I'm always over here
please
trying to not wave
You
my
know
hands.
what? That was my seat. That was my seat. And I'm always, please, you guys, I'm here too.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Please, Mariel.
I just wanted to add a few corrections to the report. Given the comprehensive nature of some of the other departments, the probation department recognized that we left off some very critical services in response to DA's kind of discussion about the increased DV prosecutions and gender-based violence activities of their office. We've actually also seen an increase. And so in an effort to address more cases coming in, we created a second DV IPV unit within adult probation. And we currently supervise over 840 clients. What that looks like is that in the report, we only identified 5 FTEs that are working towards supporting gender-based violence strategies. But in fact, we have an additional 13.5 probation officers who do supervision services and 1 PCW who supports the probation officers and all the community-based services. Additionally, in the juvenile division, we have 2 deputy probation officers and some victim services staff that support victims of domestic violence or IPV. This doesn't actually even take into account the CSEC positions, which we report out usually at the Human Trafficking Commission, and so we have additional supports there. In the juvenile side, we also have $342,000 maximum financial obligation for contracts related to sexual behavioral therapy. We don't always expend all of that money, but we need to have those services available for young people who are adjudicated for sex-based offenses. We also have a PREA Prison Rape Elimination Act crisis line through the YWCA at $42,000. And as I mentioned, this doesn't include our sexual behavioral therapy for the adults or our CSAC services for folks who are both who are survivors but who are involved in the justice system. So we'll be working with Casey to provide a much more comprehensive report of probation services when it comes back to the board on September 30th. But I did want to just highlight the additional work that we're doing because it mirrors many of the other justice system departments.
Thank you, and thank you for that additional information. I'm ready to do a motion, unless you wanted to. I'm so sorry. I forgot that I checked in with you.
Yeah, no worries. And I'm so sorry to the whole committee that I do have to leave today at 4 and cutting our time together short. I certainly apologize. So echoing the sentiments of today, this work is just much too important, and the county is uniquely positioned to be able to amplify this work. Having our imprimatur on all the services that our partners deliver in community lets our survivors and victims know that collectively we are here for them. It is hard to prioritize categories of services ahead of receiving the gender-based violence needs assessment, which I know is only a couple months away from coming to the board. But we have hard decisions coming before us. Following the metaphor, I don't want to cut any body parts off, not in this body of work for sure. And that any decisions we make here, I really would stress the importance of leaning on our service providers and our partners who do this work and know best how to turn $1 into 5, and they know how to amplify whatever resources they have to deliver these services. So really leaning and looking to their leadership and their recommendations, that I truly believe that they will know best how to utilize the resources that are available to them. And of course, God forbid, should we have to cut these resources, which I really hope that we find a way to protect and insulate this, because there are no other service, there is no other county entity that can come in to help this. Those would be just my requests and recommendations. Thank you. And with that, if you're ready, Chair, I'll make a motion to receive the report. Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe what we could do is meet offline to further discuss this in terms of what additional ideas that we can bring to the board.
We'd be happy to.
Thank you. All right, so we have 10 more minutes, and I'm going to have some hope that maybe what we could do is bring in schooling services and do schooling services. We have 4 more items, and I don't know that we can actually get them done in 10.
Supervisor, may I just chime in to say item 12 that we haven't yet covered is the second item that would be part of the package plan to come to the board on September 30th. I don't know if we might want to prioritize that item since it's part of that that package, if that's possible.
Absolutely. Thank you for the recommendation. And yes, let's bring folks from item 12. And for those folks who are at home, this is receiving the report from the Department of Family and Children's Services relating to the Child Welfare Corrective Action Plan and related reform efforts.
And my apologies. Before we continue with 12, we do have the motion on the floor that we do need to vote for.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I thought we were done. We didn't vote on it. Thank you, Camille, for reminding us.
And
yes, please call.
That's a motion by Young and a second by Arenas, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Vice Chairperson Young?
Yes.
And Chairperson Arenas?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Camille. All righty, so we are going to skip presentations for item 12. And who's beginning, or who wants to set us off?
So Supervisor Arenas and Supervisor Young, Wendy Kanarabash, Director for Department of Family and Children's Services, joined at the staff table by George Montez with our Office of Contract Management. We're happy to answer any questions along with both Greta and Sarah.
And I just wanted to add one comment on this one. One thing that actually I learned, so thank you, George, for some of the information included in the report, was how much actually our prevention work is an area where very specific state and federal funding streams are really guiding our investments. And so actually one area where we don't have to decide what part of our body to cut off is where a state or federal funding stream or grant really tells us we will give you this money to do this specific thing. And so we don't actually have a lot of discretion in what we're offering. The materials were designed to really differentiate as best as we can in a simple way those services in the prevention space that we're funding and will continue to provide because they're really tethered to one of those state or federal funding sources versus the ones where we're investing significant general fund resources and are sort of an optional choice from the perspective of the state and federal government, where we've decided to invest in additional prevention services and resources. And so knowing that time is short, I'll leave it there, but do hope that this presentation of information helps provide the committee and then ultimately the full board with a better understanding of where there are certain services we will not be teeing up as potential reductions because they're really tethered to a specific funding source that expects us to then deliver particular services with those funds.
Understood. And so we are going to go to public comment. And Camille, you let us know.
Okay, we do have just one request online.
Okay, I'm going to do 30 seconds for that request.
30 seconds? Okay, one moment. All right. So our speaker online is Parent. Parent, you'll have 30 seconds to speak. Please go ahead.
Yes, I disagree with Ms. Hanson that we do, on some things we don't have discretion. We do have discretion because, I mean, my children are being sexually molested and I can't even get a referral to the Child Advocacy Center to get a screening. And, you know, you can understand how people were being gaslit when all the Epstein victims came and they begged for help and nobody cared what was happening to them. When I hear and I tell you.
Thank you, and that concludes public comment.
Wonderful. I'm going to start off this conversation by just thanking you, George, for compiling this information. I completely understand that there's some state and federal state obligations that we need to meet, and so it's not like we have a choice. But I think that when we look at what the amounts are for each of those, the county funded is a significant amount. I would have liked to have seen, and maybe this is something we can do for the present, for when this goes to the board. I'd like to see what if you can identify what every organization's goals and what they're using the funding for, to have the amount next to the actual agency, and I just want to have the grant amount listed, and to see what how much of it is actually spent and what is accomplished out of that, because I feel like that's missing from the program table where it has all of the programs listed. Does that make sense?
Yes, maybe let me say two things. On the amounts spent, there's a separate item on today's agenda where there's some follow-up from an item that was brought last fall with this second follow-up in March that responds to a couple of specific questions from a report that really delineates kind of contract by contract, the level of expenditure under that contract. And there's a more detailed an updated version of that item coming again this fall with that information on every SSA contract. So that definitely will be included there. I think we probably can do our best to, between now and the item that comes to the board on September 30th, address the other component of what you're requesting, which is for each of the contracts, what's a description of the kind of core scope of work and outcomes that we're expecting from that contract so that that information is there. And then we'll separately bring the item, which I think comes in either October or November, that delineates all the information on contract spend for this committee.
And what the amount granted was and what that was spent, and if it's evidence-based, because if it's one of the things that is valued, I want to know, is it evidence-based and is it outcome-based, right? I mean, how effective is it in addressing what it says it's going to do? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so that's my motion, and hopefully I'll get a second from my chair, and so we'll ask Camille to.
Happy to make a second. Just also like to add my request for information. No worries, no, not at all. It's just that as this comes back to the full board, I really would like to see just in the report the identification of operation and organizational efficiencies through restructuring and service delivery models that of course would prioritize safety net services and legally mandated work. To hear that that type of analysis from our staff in terms of how to support this, and then including any fees and charges that are being reviewed to try and reach full cost recovery.
Sure. Let me maybe ask just for a clarification. I think we can absolutely take as the feedback of this committee on both this item and the prior item that the core ask you're making is, one, have we really dug in and looked for opportunities to increase efficiency? And so I think we can make that a key lens when we're giving feedback and guidance to our departments. I don't know that we'll be able to complete that analysis before we bring forward this item on September 30th, but I think that is exactly the sort of feedback and guidance we're looking for from the committees that we'll then include in the budget instructions for departments, so that when Sarah and Wendy and George are really looking at how do we meet our budget targets, that they're really taking that lens and then bringing forward recommendations for budget reductions that share with the board exactly the type of information you're requesting on any service line where they're making a proposed reduction that either achieves efficiency or is tied to maybe less robust evidence base or less efficacy in achieving the goals that were identified when the contract was created.
Thank you. So with that, my motion is made to receive the report with the request for information from this committee today.
Perfect, and I'll second that.
Oh, wait, so I think there was a motion by Arenas earlier, so.
Second, yes, I second.
So you second, okay.
Sorry about
so-
that, I missed it.
Okay, so just that one motion, correct? Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and call the roll. Vice Chairperson Young?
Yes.
And Chairperson Arenas?
Okay, she did add to the motion. You noted that, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Sorry. All right, and then I'm yes.
Thank you,
Perfect.
motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, and I'm wondering if what we can do is accept the reports for item 10 and 11, since those are related, and then defer item number 8, schooling services, and then take public comment together, if that works.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to ask for skip the presentations for item 10 and item 11. Item 10 is legal consultation policy, and 11 is the corrective action plan for our Department of Family and Children Services. And then I will ask you, Camille, if there is any public comment for either item 10 or 11.
So I'll just give it a little bit. And there are no requests to speak for either item.
Perfect. So then I hope that we could do a motion to accept both of those reports.
I'll make a motion to accept both reports.
Perfect. Now second that, and then we'll ask Camille to take roll call.
Okay, that's Vice Chairperson Young?
Yes.
And Chairperson Arenas?
Yes.
Thank you, motion passes.
Wonderful. And so then I will lastly defer item 8, which is school link services, for the next meeting. I apologize for anybody if they've been waiting for this item. And hopefully we can talk offline if there's any issues that come up between now and our board meeting. Thank you. The last thing is our department head announcements. And Michaela, we can continue to listen to these without having quorum, correct? Since there's no,
We can continue to listen to them, but the meeting is going to be over.
Okay,
So
so-
we'll stop.
We'll adjourn.
Yeah, so I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Well, we'll adjourn our meeting, and hopefully what we can do is ask our directors to send us an email with all of your announcements that I would eagerly hear about. Thank you so much, everyone. And then don't forget our Latino Health Assessment on the 22nd. And then, of course, our meeting next month. Thank you, everyone. I tried to do acrobats. Oh, I was so...